It is round number 1 of the Mythic Invitational. Corey, any predictions how this one's going to shake out?
You know, I gotta give it to Goblins here. I just think it's a little bit more powerful of a deck, but if anybody is going to be able to take down, you know, the quote-unquote most powerful deck in the format, it's gonna be Cuneo with how much experience he has with these style of decks. And you know Andrew came into this event playing, you know, I mean, what, we saw 17,000 matches on Arena? That's insane. You know he played a lot against Goblins, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. Goblins, you know, that's probably public enemy number 1 for a lot of these players coming into this weekend. So,
Absolutely.
you know, you will have seen certain decks tech towards that, making sure they have something to deal with muxes. So, what is Cuneo hoping to have here against the good old Goblin Grandee?
Well, so far, he's getting his hope so far, and that's Mulligan kind of to oblivion upstairs from Deltour. But what he really wants is to make sure the board doesn't get too far out of control, have like a Wrath of God on turn 4, and then on turn 5 to Fairy Hero of Dominaria, untap, and then have a way to interact with Muxus. That is like the ideal draw for Azorius control deck.
All right, well, so far it's got Censor, Blink of an Eye, and Narset, Parter of Veils in hand to go digging for answers for these good old goblins here as we get things kicked off with Conspicuous Snoop. But Censor is going to say, nope, no thank you. You stay off this battlefield.
Yeah, great sequence so far. Gets a Planeswalker down. This is all you can hope for the beginning stages of the game from Cuneo.
Yep, well, Narset, Parter of Veils now digging deeper into the library, finds a Neutralize to fend off against any more threats as Goblin Chieftain is able to get down and start swinging in at Narset, taking it down to 1. Now, Goblins don't really care about drawing cards, so chances are they're just going to leave that that lovely Planeswalker hanging out there as Thoughtseize off the top of the library. Ooh, okay.
Oh, yeah, and here's the big difference that Deltour's playing from the just straight mono-red version, and that's only Thoughtseize. So playing 3 Thoughtseize in the main, otherwise it is just all Goblins. It's pretty split between the field of what people like, if they like the Thoughtseize version or just straight mono-red. But Deltour feeling pretty confident about the Black Splash.
Yep, quite happy to get Thoughtseize here. Is Cuneo making a 2/2 Shark with the Shark Typhoon, and things proceed accordingly now that Skirk Prospector is down on the battlefield. So Deltour's off to a pretty good start here. He's going to be quite happy with this. Not valuing keeping our little Skirk Prospector around, so we'll see the trade there with the Shark, Glacial Fortress off the top of the library. What do you think about that, Corey?
Yeah, that's interesting to me. I think I value the Skirk Prospector, even though it's getting boosted by the Chieftain, a lot more than the 2/2 Shark. So I think I would have liked a no attack there from Deltour, but that's completely fine as well. Yeah, you were right about not caring about Narset.
Yeah, Narset, no biggie. I get my goblins in another way, thank you, madam. As we'll see an attack in there with the Blink of an Eye now, going to return Narset to hand. All right, so someone who does care about Narset is Andrew Cuneo, because now we get to go digging deeper into the library to find answers for these goblins of Deltour.
Yeah, I love that. Why Blink of an Eye a haste threat when you can get a Narset and ding, find a Wrath of God, the card you exactly want, against an all-creature tribal deck? We do got to remember that Goblins is just all creatures. It may have some of the most robust endgame in the form of that Muxus, but it is still a creature deck.
It is indeed, as Krenko Mob Boss on the stack, trying to get out that Neutralize that's in hand there for Andrew Cuneo. Krenko goes sideways straight away, generates a couple goblins, and we're going to go swinging in here now. Will we see both goblins attack Narset, or are we just going to go straight for face with the other 4 damage?
Well, Deltour might have learned his lesson by not killing Narset last time, because it did find a Wrath of God for Cuneo, so it might make sense to take it down, decides not to. But one thing I will say, I love how Andrew has set this up so far, because next turn we can do basically the slam dunk play of Wrath of God, hold up, neutralize, and say, come at me.
Yep, what you got? So Deltour is very far behind at this point. Finds a hasty threat in Goblin Chieftain. I don't think Cuneo's going to care too much about this one as he lets it resolve. Does have a Shark Typhoon in hand if he wants to block, but we'll likely save that to be a bigger blocker for him later down the line.
Exactly. I think that Neutralize in Cuneo's hand is reserved exactly for the Goblin King here. So.
Oh, yes.
And the neutralize is known about. So
Mm-hmm.
Deltour is not just jamming that Muxus and crossing his fingers right now. He is trying to bait out that neutralize in any way he can.
Yeah. Means dumping down all the other creatures he's top decking now, then so be it. You know, these goblin chieftains now buff each other, 3 points of damage coming in a piece. So, you know, life total is getting a little bit scary here for Andrew Cuneo. Down to 9, will go down to 6, does have a shark that can get in the way here, and as soon as he's able to get control of this battlefield, he can start swinging with that shark, and that's a little scary indeed.
Yeah, this deck does not have any creatures in the main deck. That's why you see Kahiri as the companion. It is something that is not used very often, but you do still get creatures in the form of Shark Typhoon, which is really awesome. It's a really cool interaction.
Yeah, now this is where it gets a little dicey for Deltour, who has the card he wants to cast, but knows that there's an answer for it in hand. Finding another sensor there too, so with one shark being back up, the other shark starts swinging, and if everything keeps going like this, Cuneo is going to pick up the very first round here.
Yeah, that's lethal. Cracking back next turn already. So I don't see a way out for Deltour, and it was just masterfully maneuvered by Cuneo so far.
Yeah, so now he's just YOLOing it out. Muxus Goblin Grandy on the stack. It's going to get neutralized, and there's the concession. Andrew Cuneo picking up the very first win, beating the big bad of this weekend in Goblins in the hand of Louis Deltour.
Yeah, absolutely. Impressive stuff for the first game there.
All right, so sideboard times. Talk us through what the plan is here for Cuneo.
You definitely would want this cage, I would assume, since that's kind of what it's for, is to stop Muxus from being able to put goblins in. That is just enough of an incentive there to bring it in. But so far, Cuneo has not brought that in, just bringing in Baffling Ends to control the board. So pretty interesting there. I guess just brings in Cage against maybe these Bolus's Citadel Jund decks. Yeah, Cuneo's only changing Baffling Ends and Timely Reinforcements to just help out against creatures. Okay.
Rusty's Cage is not a companion. No, last time we checked, it's not.
What I've never seen wiser words said.
Arena's just taking a bit of a jab there.
Yeah, exactly. And then from Del Toro's side, looking at the sideboard here, we're probably going to want that other Thoughtseize, probably Goblin Ringleaders to be able to restock after a Wrathagon, because we saw in that last game, one Wrath followed up by a counterspell was almost too much to deal with. So that would be what I assume Del Toro brought in for Cuneo.
Yeah. Kind of interesting to see what the different sideboard and main deck configurations are, because a lot of people, you know, like to have the Goblin Ringleaders in there to go and get them out with the Goblin Matron, but we can see just on the sideboard, that's what Deltour has decided to do. As we get things going here with a Wily Goblin, Treasure Token down on the battlefield, and we do have Baffling End to deal with this Goblin as needs be. But, you know, the Wily Goblin is not that threatening in and of itself, but Goblin Warchief, on the other hand, making Goblins cheaper and giving them haste, that might be a pretty tasty target.
Exactly. And one thing that you brought up is the Goblin Ringleader that you could search for with Goblin Matron. He does not actually have one in the main, which is something that's pretty different from most stock lists. Just doesn't value searching that up consistently enough to play it.
Do you think there's a disadvantage in the mirror match having Goblin Ringleader in the main deck? Like, what's his thought process there? As we see Thoughtseize digging through Cuneo's hand.
I think the thought process is that when he plays Matron, it almost always goes and clicks Muxus. That, you know, the small variance of drawing that card in a matchup where you don't want it, I guess is not good enough. But I can't imagine the amount of times I played Goblins, the amount of times I actually searched for the Ringleader, you know, was one tops.
Yeah. Here we're going to see a big old swing now. Down to 12 goes Cuneo. Does have Sphinx's Revelation in hand, so later on when he's able to cast that, it'll hopefully keep him alive. But now, just deciding, what do I want to do here? Do we want to cycle away that sensor? Could we get something with it? The Fairy Hero of Dominaria off the top of the library, and Baffling End is going to pick a target now.
Yeah, we saw Cuneo's eyes widen a bit there. A little bit of a mistake thinking that Glacial Fortress was a hollowed fountain. Played Castle Ardenvale and it was tapped, but there's no reason to not play the plains first to hold up Censor. So a bit of a misstep here, and if it was land Muxus, Cuneo's going to feel real bad.
Yes, indeed. Luckily, though, he's going to dodge the Muxus bullet for now. But however, there is a Krenko in hand, as well as a Chieftain and War Chief. So no shortage of threats here for Deltour. As he's just deciding how he wants to sequence these next turns. What's he worried about? What is his best line going forward here, do you think, Corey?
Yeah, what Deltour is thinking right now is how much do I want to extend into this battlefield and also have enough to hold back and win just in case Cuneo has a Wrath of God? Because right now, with only one blue source open from Cuneo, the shields are down. Deltour knows that there is nothing that he can cast right now, so it's just up to Deltour to do whatever he wants. So the best turn is probably these just drop Goblin Chieftain and drop a War Chief as well, or War Chief plus Krenko. But you can see he held some stuff back to not overextend into a possible Wrath, which Cuneo doesn't have.
Yeah, certainly doesn't need to commit any more to this battlefield. It's gonna fire off or play that Castle Embreth as Censor gets cycled on the end step. And okay. All right. Now Cuneo is very, very relieved to see that Wrath of God off the top of the library.
Yeah, but look at how well Del Toro played this. He has... This is how well Del Toro played this. He has War Chief into Krenko for lethal this turn after a Wrath. So very, very smart sequencing to put him at 5. So no matter what, even if there was a Wrath, he was still going to have lethal. So nice play by Del Toro.
Look at that. Arms in the air. He's very pleased with that. Lucky and hoping Muxus doesn't whiff, but picking up the tie.
It feels so bad when Muxus whiffs when you're playing that deck. It's like, okay, this is the card. This is the card that everybody is afraid of. And then, I got one Skirk Prospector? Great.
Like, cool. That's real powerful there, deck. Good job. But, no Muxus hitting the battlefield just yet. So let's see if we'll see it in this final game here between Cuneo and Deltour. This is the decider as we get things underway.
Once again, drawing that one of Sphinx's Revelation in your opening hand is not the ideal thing. You want to draw that, on turn 9 when you have a bunch of mana and just have your Wrath early on. But I think, you can't pick and choose them.
And here we see the reason to play Rakdos. Goblins, good old Thoughtseize, taking a look in hand, able to resolve the Skirk Prospector and get things going accordingly. So, I mean, for Cuneo, it's kind of like a big disadvantage not having the mind game power over your opponent, right? As soon as they dig in your hand, they can see what you're playing. It's like, well, okay, well, there goes any element of surprise I may have.
Yeah, and I mean, that is the big advantage of running Thoughtseizes in these Rakdos decks is being able to see what's coming here.
What's coming is a 2 goblins swinging in here for 4, going down to 16.
All right.
Field of Ruin hits the battlefield. We've got a 1/1 Shark fending off against these goblins. Are we gonna see a Muxus? Not yet. Krenko Mob. I just want to see Muxus hit the battlefield, okay?
So do I. So do I. It is a little risky to have to get rid of Skirk Prospector and Goblin Chieftain, but wow, Krenko is just a beating right now.
It is. I mean, he could still go for it, right? We could still get Muxus down here and just chow some goblins, chow Krenko. Decides not to, though. It goes for the more sensible route.
Yeah, just saying Krenko to just sacrifice it to play your other goblin in hand. Probably not the most ideal, but yeah, that was an option.
It was an option, not the best one, though. As we see all these tokens swinging in, down to 10 goes Cuneo, is looking for a board wipe as quick as possible. Otherwise, he is going to be all sorts of dead. Also doesn't have a Wrath.
Yeah, and with Skirk Prospector going to the graveyard there, another attack by Deltour cannot actually cast Muxus. But right at this point, it's just Castle Embreth and Goblins until Andrew decides to deal with that. And then, oops, Goblin King.
Sphinx's Revelation now for 2 only finds a Mind Stone. That's not a Wrath. Kostat's not going to get it done. You can see Andrew Cuneo just a little bit disappointed there by his draws, not finding what he needs to keep control of this battlefield. But even then, you got to think Muxus hardly whiffs. So chances are would have finished this game out anyway, as we're going to see cast out, cycle again, digging desperately for a board wipe and just not finding it.
Not finding it right now, bluffing settle, hoping that Deltour doesn't go for it. Deltour is going to put lethal damage on the stack, and this is going to be it for Andrew Cuneo's round number 1.
Yes, indeed. As all 7 Goblin tokens get in on there, Luis Samuel Deltour is going to pick up the very first round here. So congratulations to him, taking Goblins